Hashem that we're able to learn every day. And in this chus of learning, we should have the base of Migdash immediately. Also, refuah shleima for Chilnas ben Sarah, Aaron David Alevi ben Menuchad Lester, Avram Rafal ben Sarah, and Asher Anshel Halevi ben Miriam Adel, and Sarah Basnuni.
Amen.
So we start today on Daf Zayin Amid Beis, starting with the words L'meimra de Bekayan Talia Milsa. It's about 12 lines from the bottom. My Gemara, the line starts gully. Gemara is asking like this. We're talking about looking at Saras, the Kayan coming to look at Saras on the Moed, on maybe Yom Tov or maybe Cholamayid. We're saying that there was a little bit of a problem with that because we didn't want to spoil his Yom Tov. He's going to come in, he's going to say, Stame, that's, he's going to ruin the V'samachta B'chagecha. So Reb Meir says, okay, that's not a problem because just say that he's tar. Reb Yosi says, no, if he's going to see it, he's going to be obligated to pronounce if it's tummy as well. So don't even invite him to come look at it. Whatever the case is, L'meimra de Bekayan Talia Milsa. Apparently, the Kayan has free choice. According to Reb Meir's free choice, what he's going to pronounce. And according to Rabbi Yosi, he has free choice if he is going to go at all. So both of them are slightly problematic. The Gemara says, that's true. The Kayan does have free choice. V'hatanya, we have a brisa. The brisa says, on the day that he looks at it, there is a day that he does look at it. And there's a day that he doesn't look at it, which means that just because it exists doesn't mean that he has to go. It's up to him if he's going to go. Mikan Amru, and from here it's been taught, say a chassan, he's getting married, a groom. You don't go to check out his tzaras for 7 days. Come after the 7 days. You don't want to spoil it. For him, let's say he finds a spot on his house. Let's say he finds a spot on one of his garments, wool or linen garments. So then you give him the 7 days and you come later. And the same thing is for a holiday. Rabbi Yehuda says you give him 7 days. You give him 7 days. Okay. Div Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Aimer. Is this Rabbi? Who is this? Okay. Rabbi Aimer. It's not necessary. This is exactly quoting your comment. You quoted the Gemara's comment. Baruch Shekivanta. It says it's not necessary to use that pasuk. Rabbi says we have a better source. It says Kain commands and they empty out the house. Talking about if there's tzaras on the house. So the Kain says, wait, before we make a pronouncement, empty out all the belongings. If for something that's not a mitzvah, it's just items, a keli, a pot, a needle, a clothing, we tell them to empty out the house so they shouldn't become tamei, and we delay the pronouncement of if it's tzaras. So if you can delay it for just items, dvar rishus, things that aren't obligatory, then for sure you could delay it for Yom Tov, for a chassan, you could delay it for Cholamayid, push it off for later. So we have two sources for delaying the pronouncement. My Benaya, what's the difference between the two sources? Amar Abaya Mashmaz Darshanik Benaya. Abaya says nothing. The difference is which pasuk they learn it from. There's no difference. Rava Amar, Rava says Dvar Shosik Benaya. There is a difference. What do you have in there? No, maybe it's in there. Yeah. Dvar Shosik Benaya. if it's something that's not a mitzvah. If I go the second approach, that it goes by upino esabayas, you empty out the house from the things that are going to become tamei, so then you're allowed to postpone the pronouncement of that he's tamei, just for mundane things. Okay. If I go that it's yesh yamim she'at bay, then maybe it's only for a mitzvah. Rabbi Yehuda. What does Rabbi Yehuda do with the pasuk that's very clear that you can postpone the pronouncement of tzaras just for household items so they don't become tamei? It's very clear. Mehasam legamrinan. Rabbi Yehuda says we're not going to learn from there. Why the chiddushu? Because it's a chiddush. What's the chiddush? You see, whenever there's a chiddush, something that's novel, we say, "Ein lach bayal chidushay." Don't tell me anything more than that. The whole thing is a surprise. Now you're going to tell me that based on that, you're going to learn other things. I'm surprised just that exists. Don't tell me any more than that. So Rabbi Yehuda says the fact that the house becomes tamei, that's a chiddush. Because the eitzim va'avanim ba'alma le'metamu, v'achim metamu. Stones never become tamei. And here they're becoming tamei. This is the only place in all of halacha that a stone could become tamei. Tzaras. Usually a stone is or wood, pshute klietz, just a beam of wood should not become tamei. And here we're saying that it does become tamei. So that's a chiddush. So the fact that that's a chiddush, and I'm allowed to postpone its tumah because to take the items out of the house. So I can't say that you do that. Oh, it's up to the kayan. No, by the house, you're allowed to postpone it. It's only one thing, but not if there's tzaras on his body, I could postpone it. That we don't see from here.
Does it mean that stones kind of wood became tamei, or does it mean that house became tamei? You have the same concept earlier anyway. Before you have the tamei oil, right? What's the oil? The oil is the wood beam. What's the oil? The rock.
It means both, because the contents of the house also become tamei.
What I'm saying is something with tamei oil, right? It could be a wood beam that's making the oil.
Right.
So it's not that the wood beam is tamei.
No, it turns out. No, it turns out. It turns out that
demolish the house.
The
wood and the rock
is remain tamei. Yeah, and by the house, by tumas oil, the house is not tamei.
Right.
Once you remove so it's not a real tumah on the house; it's a tumah of underneath the house, underneath the roof.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The same thing
This is not. The stones still are tamei.
So when you demolish the house,
The stones are, they have to be like removed and everything. It's only the stones that have the spots on them, not the rest of the house. The rest of the house is tamei, be like tumas oil is tamei. Whoever's in the house, but those stones I think have a real tamei. They need to be removed. But Rebbe says it's you see, what are we doing over here? We know that it's up to the kayan if he wants to pronounce, if he's going to pronounce him tamei or not. But we have two sources. One was from the house with tzaras. You see that he can delay it, he can postpone it until the items are removed. So, but at least we know that's for dvar rishus, at least that by the house. For something that's not a mitzvah, by the house it works. Rebbe says that it works not only for the house, it works also for a regular, for tzaras that's on this body. Even for dvar rishus, you could postpone it. You see, we learned from there. Now, if that's the case, that you could postpone it for a dvar rishus just to make sure that certain items don't become tamei, so then why do I need the pasuk that says b'yayim herois by? That's teaching me that even on a Yom Tif or a Chasen, that's for a Dvar Mitzvah. If I can do it for a household item, for sure for a mitzvah I could do it. So the Gemara says over here for Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Amar Yitzchak. Rabbi says it's necessary to have both psukim. Dikas Rachman Abiyim Heres, but if it would only say the pasuk that tells me that certain days you look at the tzaras and certain days you don't look at the tzaras, Havamina Lidvar Mitzvah in Lidvar Rishus Lai. I would have understood from that if there's a mitzvah that's telling me to postpone the pronouncement, so I'm not going to look at the tzaras that day. What mitzvah? Well, if it's a Yom Tov, I don't want him to get to spoil his Yom Tov. If it's a chassan, I don't want to spoil the wedding, so I can postpone it. But ledvar rishus, just because it's messing up some items or something, I would say no, I can't postpone it. So kas rachmana v'tziva kayin. So it says v'tziva kayin even for dvar rishus, I'm able to, even for just household items not becoming tummy. Because rachmana v'tziva kayin, and if it would say v'tziva hakayin, that says that the kayin tells the person, the house owner, that he should remove the items from the house before he makes the pronouncement, so they don't become tummy. Havamina hani in the lav tumah de gufei. I would say that that's only by a house where you can do that, but by the body, if there's a spot of leprosy on his body, I would say that you can't postpone it. I don't know about postponing it, so therefore I need to have b'yem hirais by. That tells me that even if it's on his body, there's only certain days that he could look at it. Certain days he doesn't look at it. It's like if it's a Yom Tov. And we also have the other one of V'tziva Kain, which tells me that you could postpone it for the Barishas. Tzricha. You need both of them. Okay, Amar Mar. Amar Mar is going back to quote a Brisa and to re-examine something that we went through once before. Amar Mar, Yeshem Shataraya by Yeshem Shiataraya by. The Brisa taught us that we learned from the pasuk of B'yom Harais by, on the day that the Kayan sees it, that he pronounces it, that it's only certain days that he does it, and certain days he doesn't do it. Why? Because of it's the holiday. It's Cholamayid. You don't look at the tzaras. My mashma. Where do you see that not every day do you look at the tzaras? Amar Abaya. Abaya says, Im kein lichter rachmana b'yom. On the day that he sees it. My ubayim, and on the day that he sees it, Shmamina yeshem shatarei by yeshem shiatarei by. That extra vav is teaching me that extra halacha. Yeah, Tesis is mentioning if Rabbi Yehuda in other places is when you have a limud like this, there's an extra vav. Yeah, you really have to go through the whole shas and look through all the drushes and see which opinion follows which, how people darshan. Problem is, it's not so consistent that when it comes to the drushes. Anyway, what's happening here is we're saying that there's an extra vav in the word ubayim, which is teaching me that it's not every day that the kayan is obligated to look at the tzaras. There are days that he doesn't have to. For example, if it's a holiday. Who's explaining this? Abaya. Rava Amar, Rava says, Kula krayaseri. It's not a vav that we're darshaning. We're looking at the whole pasuk. The whole pasuk is extra. It says, Dim kein lichter rachmana ubehirais. And when he sees it, my ubayim. Why does it have to say on the day? Shmamina yeshem shatarei by yeshem shiatarei by. The whole word is extra. Didn't have to say the day. So what does Abaya do? Abaya said it needed to say the day. It just need to have the extra vav that says and. Abaya says that the word bayim is not extra, because the kain is only allowed to look at the tzaras by day. He's not allowed to look at the tzaras by night. You see it in the daylight. Rava, what does Rava do? Where does he know that the kain has to see the tzaras by day, not by night? It says that it sees it according to the appearance in the eyes of the kain. So that tells me that he has to see it by day. Why? Because by day is when you can see. So, Abaya, why does Abaya say that the word bayim tells me that it has to be by day? We have Milkolmara Eni Akayan that it's by day. So he says, Hahumi baile lemute suma, ba'achas me'enav. It has to be Lakol Mara Ene Akayan, that the kayan has to see with both eyes. If the kayan is blind in one eye, then he can't be the kayan that's going to pronounce it. Special exclusion here. What type of kayan is going to come? Rava nami mi bayalei lahachi. What about, so how does Rava learn from that? Rava also holds the same halacha, that the kayan needs to have, we're assuming over here that you can only get one drasha from each pasuk. So if Rava uses that pasuk to tell me it needs to be by day, then how does he know that it needs to be a kayan that has two eyes that are functioning? It says, Enachanami, you're right. Okay, so now we have to go back. How does he know by day? So how does he know that that the kayan sees it only by day? Nafkale mikanega nearly babayas. Says that it's like a spot was appeared to me in the house. That's what the person tells the kayan. Kanega doesn't say that I saw a nega, because a nega would mean that he's already saying that it's tameh. It's the owner. He's saying it's like a nega to me in the house. Now, when it says a nega to me, it appeared to me. That means li v'layla ayri. It appeared to me naturally, not because of a candle. So that tells me that he had to see it by day. Doesn't tell me the kayan saw it by day. It says the person saw it by day, and he goes to the kayan. So let's assume the whole thing is by day. Abaya says in Mihasam Hava Mina. If you would learn from Kenega nearly Babayas, I would have understood that Tumma de Lav de Gufei, that's talking about on the house. Aval Tumma de Gufei, but Tumma that's on his body, Afilu Iranami, that you can see by a candlelight. Kamash Malan. So that's why it has to say for Abaya, it has to say Ubayim. No, it has to say Bayim to tell me that it's by day. The Ubayim tells me that it's only some days. And Kenegel nearly babayas means that even on the body needs to be by sunlight. No, it's going to come out that Kenegel nearly babayas, according to Abaya, what is that teaching me? What does Rava do? Let's go to Rava. Rava says that Bayoim, the whole pasuk is teaching me that it's only certain days. It's not every day. Why? Because sometimes it could be a Yom Tif where the kain doesn't have to come. How does he know someone that's blind? He says, Rava says, can't be someone that's blind. How does he know by day and by day and not by night? Keneg nearly babayas. So Rava has it worked out. According to Abaya, what we're left with is that Kenega nearly babayas doesn't. We didn't say what Abaya does with that pasuk. We just say that it wouldn't have taught me everything. Okay.
Leori, to say that Leori versus Li, well, there's light of the sun too. I mean, there's always gonna be light somewhere. If you're gonna see something.
Yeah. I guess Li would mean like naturally, and La'iri means with a light that I lit.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
Blind in one eye, obviously, it's moved for the base of English.
Yeah.
But I guess you can still do other
Right.
type work.
Right. I've nothing's pointing out that the kayan that sees the tzaras apparently can have a mum. Because it's only because he can't see that it's a problem.
But the further question is, we know the kain doesn't have to be
Talmud Chacham.
He can refer to a doctor who says,
Yeah.
that's right. He just has to pronounce that's right.
Right.
So it doesn't seem like we need to be able to see what go by. Why would we care? He
Oh.
doesn't even need to know what Saras looks like for that matter. He just has to be able to
Right.
pronounce it. He needs
Right.
his mouth more than he needs his eyes.
Right. That's interesting.
So I don't like this one thing. Because the moon thing is a problem on two fronts.
Yeah.
It seems like ordinarily a kind with the moon is not able to do this kind of
Avram Nassan's pointing out something interesting. The kayan shows up. The kayan doesn't need to be a Talmud Chacham. He can ask an expert, what do you think? And then the expert tells him his expert opinion. And then the kayan just does the pronouncement. So really, the kayan doesn't need to see it either. Because he doesn't, we're learning that the kayan has to be able to look at it. But the question is, why does he have to look at it if he's relying on the expert in it? The kayan is just a mouth that pronounces it. So Yeah, and it's not because of a mum, because we don't, it's, the mum doesn't make him puzzle for this. That's an interesting point.
It's not that he doesn't have to be able to see it. He has to be able to see it. Or he only has one eye, he's blind, maybe he can't see it 100%. Well, that's fine because he doesn't need to be able to see it perfectly to make the determination. That's the point. If you couldn't see it, if he was blind or if it was dark at night, then no one can do the work. But it would seem to me like, so I don't like this whole thing about the mum. It doesn't sound right.
I'll tell you.
He shouldn't be able to serve. He has a mum.
Right.
And B, in this case, he doesn't need to be able to see two eyes. Doesn't need to have two eyes to see. You have this fine.
Yeah.
My problem.
But he still needs to judge favorably, even though he's relying on somebody else. It's still his judgment. It's not just a mouthpiece. He is looking, and
even if he is just a mouthpiece, it's acceptable. If he can only see with one eye, he says, "I can't really show my show. Let me ask an expert." That's fine.
Yeah.
I want to say that the issue.
Apply inside and outside of the patient.
Well, first of all, I would assume that if he has a mum, he shouldn't be able to provide service. Apparently, he's allowed to provide ancillary services as a kohen. Okay, fine. So first, on one front, the mum is a little problem. The second front is, who cares if he has a mum? Because he doesn't need to be able to see crystal clear and make a determination with his eyes. He's able to rely on an expert. So if he's able to rely on an expert, who cares if he has one eye, two eyes, good vision, bad vision? It's not that important.
Yeah, I think what
It's more important that his mouth works.
What Reb Daniel is saying is that he has to see it. The expert just tells him that what the meaning of what he saw is. It's not just that he pronounces it. He has to see it, and then he doesn't. The interpretation of what he's seeing, that he gets help from the expert.
Okay, so he can see, but why do you need two eyes? Why do you need in the middle of the day?
Well, that's
right?
exercise.
In case you have, you're not sure, is it white, is it beige, is it what's going on, right? So therefore, if you see it in daylight, if you see it clearly with two eyes, you can make a proper determination. But
Could be.
No, the kohen doesn't need to be able to make a proper. The kohen can have a suffix. You gotta have a suffix and rely on
Other pshat to resolve all of this discussion is to just say it's exercise akasav. Not because he sees it better by day and he sees it with two eyes better. Say that's what the Torah says. Okay, we have a new Mishnah. It says, "Va'idam Reb Meir malakad adam atzamis avav v'imay mipnei simcha shesimcha ilay." Reb Meir says that on the holiday, talking about Chol HaMoed, in those days they would bury the body and then they would exhume the bones and they would rebury it in another spot. And a person is allowed to do this on Chol HaMoed because it's a simcha for him that he gets to put the bones in the burial place that the parents wanted to be buried together with the rest of the family. Rabbi Yossi Aimer Aval Hulai. Rabbi Yossi says, "Oh no, that's mourning. That's not simcha. That's avelis." Then the Mishnah says, "La yaradam adam al meisei." A person shouldn't reawaken it, awaken the feeling of that someone passed away. You shouldn't eulogize someone that passed away 30 days before the holiday. Yeah, it's a discussion if that's two separate halachas or if that's the same halacha. The Gemara starts with a question. Veraminu, you have a contradiction. If someone exhumes the bones of his father and mother, that day is considered a day of Avelis. Rabbi Yossi is right. It's only one day. In the evening, it's over. Rav Chizda says even if you didn't see the bones, even if they're wrapped up, it's still a day of mourning. Amar Abaya says, he adjusts the words of the Mishnah. It says, what did Rav Meir mean? Didn't mean that it's a simcha to take the bones out and put them in another place. He meant that there's a simcha of the holiday that's so strong that's not going to affect him. Simcha saregel. He's overwhelmed by the simcha of the holiday that it's not going to be a problem. Totally different pshat in the Mishnah. Shouldn't awaken the feeling of the deceased, of the mourning. What does this mean? Rav says Karavi Saftina b'Marava. When they would make a eulogy in the west, which for Rav that was in Eretz Yisrael, Amri, they would say Yivkani me kol marir liba, come to cry everyone that has a bitter heart. So that they didn't want to do on the holiday or 30 days before the holiday. 30 days before the holiday. Why is there this cutoff point of 30 days? Amar Rav Kana, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Kana says, it's interesting. In the name of Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Kana, at least one of them was a student of Rav. Didn't have to be Rav Kana in the name of Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav. Kana says that in the name of Rav Yehuda, in the name of Rav, person was saving up money for going up to the base of Mikdash. Ubas Saftan, someone that comes makes eulogies, appears. V'amar al Pesach Beis, standing by his door. V'nataltan ishtay v'nasnan loy. Is there a correct way of reading that, Ramesha? Nasantan, Lai.
They hired someone to do
Yeah, they would have professional eulogizers. They would come and cry and give. It would be like today they have by the Chassidish weddings they have like a mitzvah dance. So by the mitzvah dance, they have a badchan. A badchan. He's like a joker, a comedian that calls the person up to come dance, and it's a guy that does it for every wedding. He doesn't know. He asks questions beforehand. Who's this? Who's that? Who's that? And then he. Okay, so with the eulogy, they would have a guy that doesn't know the people at all. And he would just go give him the standard eulogy. Maybe he asked a few questions before, but the eulogy was, he had the. No, usually today they have a rabbi that knew the family or something, or maybe not.
Rabbis don't know the family. Say, well, the last half an hour, based on what I asked the family members, let me give this eulogy. I mean, it's by the way, the kudos here says his son or son. So it's two colors.
Oh, and the sunlight. So she gives the money. She gives the money to this eulogizer. So the person wasn't able to go up. They spent the money on a side project. He was saving money for his to be Oile Regel. So person should not awaken the feeling of mourning or hire a eulogizer 30 days before the holiday. Today, no, this means if he was buried earlier, the shleishim could fall out on 30 days before. You don't do the shleishim. You don't do that event. It's two shleishims here. Shleishim yom kedem achag, and the shleishim from that. You don't do that event for where they make a hesped and all of that. You don't do that 30 days before the holiday. Shmuel Amar. Because what's the reason for the 30 days? Not because everyone was saving money and now when you do this, you're going to spend it all on the eulogy. It's because you're going to be thinking about it for 30 days. It takes 30 days. I thought we said it a year. But here, I guess when you awaken it, it's 30 days at different levels of mindset. My binayo, what's the difference between Rav and Shmuel? It could be nayo the covered bechinam. The difference is if he does it for free. He does it for free, according to Rav, then it's fine, because the whole issue was you're going to spend your money that you needed to be Oile Regel. And according to Shmuel, you're going to be thinking about it on the holiday, which is we didn't want. Okay, ein chayfen kuchen akvaris b'mayit. The holiday comes around, you say, oh, look, I have all this free time. Let me go dig some graves. I'll have them ready. So kuchen is one type of grave. Kvaris is another type of grave. Aval machanchen es kuchen b'mayit, but you can fix up. I will explain what you do, how to fix up the kuchen. It's a type of grave. But Aisin, how does the English translate it? Kuchen?
Isn't it nooks?
Aerial niches.
Niches. Nooks, niches. It was they would put it into the rock. Okay, Va'isen nevreches b'mayed. You're allowed to make a laundry pool on Cholamayid. It's interesting because you weren't supposed to do laundry. Va'arain imames b'chater. And you can make an aron together with the corpse in the courtyard. Because you can't just start building coffins. But if the corpse is there, then you would be allowed to. Rabbi Yehuda Iser. Maybe it says, no, you're not. You're not allowed to make a coffin. Elam ken yeshim nisarm, unless you already have the boards. If you have the boards, you can bang them together. But to make boards, to start cutting the wood in a way that you're going to be able to make boards, that's too big of a job, and that's a tircha for the holiday. Yeah.
It doesn't say here contradicting that you're not supposed to do laundry. Because it just says you may create a wash pot. Create the pot so that if the Yom Tov maybe, that's when you can wash the clothes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's interesting that you're allowed to do this on Yom Tov when on Cholamayid when you're not supposed to do the laundry anyway.
Well, they just want to prepare that you have a place to have that the laundry machine has been delivered by let's say
So Taisvus answers two answers. There are certain people that are allowed to do laundry on Yom Tov, on Cholamayid rather. People that had just come out of prison or something, they were allowed to do things. I think they could take haircuts and other things, or maybe for children that they soiled their clothing every day. Remember, they didn't have disposable diapers back then.
what did we learn before with the husband and the wife? One could, that was Chodesh.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's my joke. Okay. And another pshat is that for a corpse, you can wash tachrichem. I don't know how they got dirty, but you can wash the body as well. So you could with that pool does have use. It wasn't like totally like useless for. No, it does have use. It's not every case, but it does have use. My kuchen, my kvaris. What does it mean kuchen? What does it mean kvaris? Amar Rav Yehuda kuchen bechafira, kvaris bebinyan. It's actually the opposite of what we were thinking. Kuchen is when you dig, and kvaris is when you have. What is when it's built up? What is it called? The mausoleum. Mausoleum. Yeah. I always thought that the mausoleum was not like a frum thing to use. I always thought that was like less religious. But it turns out that no, they had that as well. I don't know. Tanya Nami Hachi, starting in a brisa. Eloin kuchen, Eloin kvaris, kuchen bechafira, kvaris bebinyan. Kuchen are dug, and kvaris are actually in a structure where they would put the body in the mausoleum. Aval machanchen as a kuchen, but you're allowed to prepare them. Ketzan mechanchen. What does it mean mechanchen? Mechanchen is like initiate or something. Amar Rav Yehuda shimaya aruch mekatzrei. If it was too long, you could make it shorter. A crypt.
Crypt and then they slide.
Yeah. The Brisa says that you could make it bigger, so they would fit it to size. That you were allowed to do on Cholamayid. But in Nevreches, you're allowed to make this wash pond. My Nevreches. What is this Nevreches? I'm Rav Yehuda Zubekia. Gemara thinks that I know what Bekia is better than Nevreches. That's what it says. It's a Bekia. Tanya, we have a Brisa on Nevreches Bekia. The two, it says one after another. It can't be the same thing, or else we can't itemize it like that. It's the same thing. Amar Abaya v'teimer Rav Kana Gio Bar Gia. There's two types of pools. There's a larger pool, and then there's like a runoff for the next one. They probably would use it because they would use the larger one to wash it first, and then they would use the smaller one afterwards to get it like more clean or something. Okay, two sizes. Varan imames b'chatzer, and an aron, a coffin, you're allowed to make if the corpse is in the courtyard. Tanin ala d'taner rabbanan. What we're learning here, we actually have a brisa. What we're learning in the Mishnah, we have a brisa. Oisen called tzarchei hames. You can do everything for the deceased. Goisen leisari, you can cut the hair. Mechapsen like susay, you can wash his garment, his clothes. Oisen le'aron, you can make him a coffin. Min nasarim hamenusarim. That's if the boards were already cut to boards. You can bang them together. If the boards were made into boards from Erev Yom Tov. That was the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that we had in the Mishnah, that you weren't allowed to make boards. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, which was the opinion of the Tanakam in the Mishnah, that you can actually make boards as well. The only thing is, he's adding that you weren't supposed to make the boards in public. The boards were made privately in the house. And then you would bring it out and you can bang it together outside. The Mishnah says, you're not allowed to marry women on the holiday, on Chol Hamoed. Can't make a wedding on Chol Hamoed. Not a first marriage, a virgin, or not a widow. You can't do Yibam either. Yibam would be a mitzvah. Nevertheless, you're not allowed to do Yibam. Yibam is the brother passed away to marry his widow. Because it's Simcha. It's a little surprising. I think Simcha would be a good thing. It's a holiday. It would be I understand. But before we're dealing with the burials and stuff. But over here, what's the problem? We'll see in the Gemara. But if a person divorced his wife, he's allowed to remarry her. Maybe because that's not a simcha. Okay. A person can do her makeup on the Chol Hamoed. Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yehuda says they would put plaster on the skin and then they would like pull it off. Later on, it would look nice, but for the first day, it would like make the skin red, and it wasn't nice the first day. You had to wait. They'd probably stay inside for a day, so that you shouldn't do. A head type for kedarkai. Not a professional, a non-professional can stitch, can sew. Va'uman machlev. If he's a professional, how do they translate machlev? They have it over there. Okay, we'll see it. We'll see what it is in the Gemara. Masargin esamites. That we'll also see in the Gemara.
It says,
yeah.
It says it uses irregular stitches.
Irregular stitch. Okay. Okay.
The point says temporary.
Temporary stitch. So professional, you can't do a professional work, but you can do a temporary stitch. Yeah, I could sew. Okay. Rabbi Yisrael Mematchen, he says that you can stretch the Mesargin or Mematchen, those discussion over here, what you can do with the bed. The Gemara asks, we're going back to what we said in the Mishnah, that you're not allowed to get married on Chol Hamoed because it's Simcha. What's the problem if he's happy? We don't want him to be happy. Let him get married, he'll be happy. That's a good thing. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, v'chein Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Ishia, v'amrila, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Chanina. A whole bunch of sources possibly for this. Lafi she'ein marvim simcha b'simcha. You're not supposed to mix two types of joy. Each one needs to be celebrated separately.
That's why two sisters get married.
Uh-huh.
Save money, why make one wedding? Just two.
Right. By a bris for twins, I think they have the meal in the middle. Yeah.
I'd actually dip into it with friends. Yes, I don't really do.
Yeah.
Good story.
There's always the speech.
No, I just started thinking about
The
it out
speech
loud.
by bar mitzvahs when they do two events. They're going to make a siyum, and we're going to also, it's also the bar mitzvah. I ein marvin simcha b'simcha. Sometime I was at a bar mitzvah. They donated a sefer Torah at the bar mitzvah. Said, I ein marvin simcha b'simcha. You can't. Hey, it makes a good speech. Rabba bar Rav Huna Amar b'pnei sheminiach simchas haregel v'isuk b'simchas ishtay. Rabba bar Rav Huna says he's going to neglect the holiday. He's going to be so busy rejoicing with his wife. So what's the difference? The difference is because over there it's any simcha. Over here it's just specifically his wife. That's what it seems from the following Gemara. Amalei Abayah or Rav Yosef. Abayah says to his teacher Rav Yosef, Had Rabba bar Rav Huna de Rav. That statement that Rabba, the son of Rav Huna, said, he got it from Rav. Rav Huna was a student of Rav. The Amar Rav Daniel bar Katina Amar Rav Minayin shein noisin nashim b'mayid. How do you know that you're not allowed to marry a woman on Chol HaMayid or on Yom Tov? Shnema v'samachta b'chagecha. You should rejoice in your holiday. B'chagecha v'loy b'ishtecha. Your holiday, but not with your wife. Pretty tough.
Well, it doesn't mean not with your wife. It means that the primary focus or that's where that's the symptom we have to have.
Right.
You should have with your wife.
There was a story, get the details of it, but Reb Chaim Soloveitchik and the Rogatchover learned together. They were chavrusas for one time. And one of them said that at a marriage, when a wedding takes place, it never stops. It's a pula nimshachas. He's every second he's getting married. Anyway, the other one said, "What? There was a wedding, and that's over. There's no more wedding because they continue." Anyway, the next day he sees him. He says, "Mazel tov." So he said, "What's the mazel tov?" So you just got married again. So anyway, so here, how's he gonna explain this? You can't get married. Okay. Ula says it's going to be too much effort preparing for the wedding on the holiday. We don't want you to work so hard. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha has an interesting point. He says if you're allowed to get married on Yom Tov, then you're never going to get married the rest of the year, because why not save on the wedding, and because you have a Yom Tov meal coming anyway. So the whole year there's going to be no weddings. It's just going to be weddings on Yom Tov. So because of Bittul Peri Yivriv, we say don't get married on Yom Tov. Now you have every day of the rest of the year is open. Okay. Meisvei, the Gemara has a question. All of them that was said that you can't get married on Moed, Mutar Lisa Erev Haregel. But Erev Yom Tov, you're allowed to get married. Yeah. It was traditionally in Europe, they would do weddings on Fridays because the meal would be Friday night when they already had chicken soup ready and whatever they were serving, it was already prepared. And why waste money on a Tuesday night, a Wednesday night meal? So the wedding would be Friday afternoon or Friday morning or whatever, and then they would eat the Friday night meal. So the Gemara says here, Kasha Lakulu, it's a question on everyone. Every opinion here is a problem, because you're going to be rejoicing on the holiday because of the wedding that you did on the Erev holiday. If you're not supposed to be taking your mind away from the holiday, Simcha Marvin, Simcha B'Simcha, Samachta B'Chagecha, not with your wife, or because of Tairach. There's going to be a Tairach also because of the 7 days of celebration. There's going to be that issue as well. Gemara says, like Kash. Laman de Amar Mishum Simcha, one that says that there was an issue of Simcha. Iker Simcha Chad Yaima. The main Simcha is just the first day. That's the teretz, by the way, for Reb Chaim. Even though he's married, he's getting married every day, but the main Simcha was the first day. Laman de Mishum Tircha, the one that says that it's a bother preparing. Iker Tircha Chad Yaima. The main bother was the first day. Laman de Mishum Bittul Peri V'Riva, according to Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, that you're going to postpone everything until the Yom Tov to make the wedding. So a person is not going to wait. If he only has one chance to make a wedding, he's not going to push it off for that day. Why? Because let's say something is going to happen that day, a delivery of some sort. I don't know. It's going to get busy. It's going to lose his chance of making the wedding. I can't rely on just one day. If I have 7 days to make a wedding, so good. But just one day, it's not going to. And where do we know that you're not allowed to mix one simcha with another simcha? We have a pasuk Vayash Shlomo Beisi Yisachag. Shlomo made the holiday. This is Malachim Aleph, Perek Ches, when the inauguration of the temple. B'chol Yisrael Imai, all the Jewish people were with him. Kal Gadol was a great assembly. Milav v'chamas ad Nachal Mitzrayim, from Hamas till the river of Egypt. Everyone came together. 7 days and 7 days, 14 days. By the way, this was over Sukkot. It was the 7 days before Sukkot and then Sukkot. If you're allowed to make a simcha on a holiday, let them just celebrate 7 days for the inauguration of the temple, and because it's Sukkot. You have to do them both together. So it must be Ein Marvin Simcha B'Simcha. He had to do the holiday 7 days before his inauguration, 7 days before the holiday, and then on the holiday was the holiday. It went straight into the holiday. People stayed there for 14 days. The Gemara says, "V'dilma minta leina."
What about Yom Kippur?
Ah, very good. That's going to be further in this Gemara. They ate on Yom Kippur that year. They were celebrating. Yeah. We'll see. The Gemara says, maybe you don't postpone a wedding until the holiday. Just like Shlomo didn't postpone. But if it happens to be that it would have fallen out on the holiday, you're allowed to. It doesn't tell me that you're not allowed to. Maybe that's when it fell out. The Gemara says, no, he should have delayed it and make it all together. The Gemara says, that's not an answer. You don't delay the Beis Hamikdash because the conclusion of the Beis Hamikdash, the construction, just because you want it to fall out at a certain time. So the Gemara says, well, there was one little part on the top that stops the ravens from coming over there, and so they put like little like barbed wire, like things that the raven shouldn't be able to land. That's not something that we want to push off either. That's very important. It shouldn't be over there. Ella, rather, the pasuk has an extra, says it in an interesting way. It says michti. It says that it was 14 days. Shivas Yam v'Shivas Yam Lamali. Why does it have to say it was 7 days plus another 7 days? Shema Mina. From here we see Hani L'chud v'Hani L'chud, that you have to separate celebrations. There was a celebration of Sukkot. There was a celebration of the inauguration. Let's leave it over here. He didn't postpone, and because of the way it's written in the pasuk, that it says it could have just said Arba Asayim, that it was 14 days. The fact that it says Shivas Yam